Hello, it is the me, GamePenguin21, and today, oh boy, looks like we have some weird news to talk about. Now, of course, these news comes from various different sources, and this is my sort of end-of-month roundup that I tend to do roughly every month. I don't know if I did it last month, but this is usually when I run out of things to really talk about and things to really go over. And I really just wanted to talk about some of the things that I didn't think deserved their own videos, because I usually get that stuff out of the way, so that way it makes way for more videos. Just, it's a kind of good way of clearing house. Overall, some of the things that happened were some things from Reforged Gaming, some things from this side and that side, and overall, there is plenty of things to talk about. But there is a couple of things that I won't talk about specifically in this video because I didn't really have time and they didn't really fit anywhere else. I'm just going to talk about them very quickly here before we get to the video proper. But again, if you like what it is I do, want to support me in any other way, shape, or form, links down in the description below. And also a like and subscribe is always enough. Please, let's hit 1.5K by the end of the year. That'd be awesome. Overall, the main couple of things that has been talking about is the Bloodborne 10th anniversary came out this past, I think, week or so, where Bloodborne turned 10, but there was nothing from Sony, and PlayStation fanboys, at least on Icon era, have, well, essentially just gone full mask off and said, yes, congratulations to them not celebrating a game. Why? Very stupid to talk about that, but whatever. Overall, it's just very dumb, and again, that's another thing that happened. There was also a leakage from a proposed Xbox sort of thing where there was a Steam integration, and PlayStation has kind of gone up into a tizzy about that, especially with PlayStation fanboys. And overall, that seems to be one of those things where PlayStation fanboys specifically are saying, oh, well, they have to now rely on Steam for sales and blah, blah, blah. And, like, Xbox pulling out this thing is just a good business move, blah, 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 whatever you want to talk about it. For my opinion on both of these stories, it's just very dumb that, one, Sony is continuously showing that because they are arrogant pricks sometimes, that they continue to just complete arrogant pricks and try to screw over a lot of, the actual consumers. If you want to see more of people getting screwed over by actual things like that, there is a unlisted video that's going to be there that I'll just link it in the description, but if you want to go and donate to like my coffee to see it there as well, doesn't really matter. This video is basically me reacting to the Nib video live with a couple of friends, and it's just a lot of dumbassery in there. I think I will cover it in a video proper, but for now, that the video is me talking about it there. There'll probably be a couple other things in there, but that's overall whatever. And it's just one of those things that you look at, and it's just very dumb that Sony is making these dumb decisions not to integrate into a more cohesive system because they want to keep their thing walled gardened, and that's just not really working right now. But that's the end-all be-all for the intro segment of a couple of things that I won't be talking about in this video. To now, let's talk about some more smaller stuff that I think deserve a little bit more of a very modest, funny business here. Starting, of course, off with Reforged Gaming, where he basically has this screenshot from Blue here talking about how exactly the PS5 Pro and Switch 2 would be about $1,200. A good gaming PC for that much can't play Nintendo games and has to wait for the PlayStation points. It's just terrible advice, which I'm assuming they're talking about a person saying, get a gaming PC over a PS5 Pro or a Switch 2, where they're saying like, hey, if you want if you pay $1,200 for a gaming PC equivalent, it's bad because you then can't pay for Nintendo Switch games or anything, or you can't get PlayStation ports until years after, both of which are not really selling points if you're trying to get a PC, at least for the most part. A $1,200 PC being the equivalent, quote-unquote, for consoles is not necessarily true, because I'm fairly certain even $700 to maybe even just $100 more at $800, you get a pretty decent gaming PC that might not be the most powerful and might not play all of the games. You can definitely purchase those games and purchase those parts and things and assemble a gaming PC that is not, if not equivalent, a little bit more powerful than most of the stuff, especially for just the space Nintendo Switch. I mean, heck, even a Steam Deck can break out of that, and we've already talked to death about that. Overall, if you're saying like, oh, you should buy these consoles for the exclusives, no. That's just a straight up, just don't do that. I don't think that that's a good thing. But again, talking about a little bit more on PlayStation news here, we have Sony being sued for artificially increasing prices on the PlayStation Store. This is mainly for digital games overall, and this was, I think, being done in the UK again, which is very strange. And I find it interesting how originally they were advocating for the stopping of the Activision deal because they could artificially increase the price of games, and yet Sony is now being sued with apparent evidence enough to take it to a federal court level that they're doing the same thing that they said that Microsoft would be doing. Very fucking strange to me. And again, this is quote-unquote the market leader here. Another little bit of interesting Astro Boy news, and PlayStation news specifically, is that Astro Bot, the creator, said that they were actually pushing the PS5's power to its very limit when talking about things such as the sponge stuff and the water physics and things like that. I find this very fucking strange because, again, this is Astro Bot that we're talking about here. This was originally created as like a tech demo for the PlayStation 4, I believe, when it was originally created. And while, yes, this is a successful game, and while, yes, this game did do very good and very well, Astro Bot as a video game should not be pushing the PS5's processing power to its very limit, despite the fact that it looks fantastic. And again, that processing power being on full display is nothing short of okay, but I just find it strange how they can look at this and say, yes, this is going to push the power of the PlayStation to its absolute limit, but like, why, how, and how unoptimized the game has to be for this. Like, they were optimizing it until the very end, again, for what they're saying in the quote here. How does that happen? I'm just so confused. Speaking of another thing that confuses the fuck out of me for some other reason, going on to a more salty stuff, we have Tipster retweeting an Icon Era post, but somehow turning it racist? Like, I don't know if this is supposed to be that way or what the heck's going on here right now, but they basically turned Vicky into this. And if you don't know, this is supposed to be a thing from, this is supposed to be from Fairly Odd Parents, and it's a pretty popular series, but it's just strange to me how and why they not only decided to console war, but they also decided to just make it essentially racist. Like, why do this? Why is this a thing? Like, I'm not even gonna read the post. You can read it in your own time when you have to go back and pause the video. But like, why they decided to use this meme of all memes is just fucking stupid, dude. It's very strange. A little bit more interesting news of, again, trying to pull away from that really quickly. We then have The Last of Us Part 3 news. This was being talked about with Neil Druckmann, where he says, and I quote in terms of this article, I guess the only thing I would say is don't bet on there being more of The Last of Us. This could be it. Talking, of course, about the possibility of The Last of Us Part 3, which was originally teased back during, I believe, The Last of Us Part 1 with The Last of Us factions and stuff, where they said that they were going to make the game, but now they're kind of changing their tune because I guess the game wasn't received well and didn't make back a lot of the money that they invested into it. I'm not sure. I do not care. I just find it interesting how Neil basically, at this point, would have said, this is going to happen and we're going to make this game better than Last of Us Part 2, but now, maybe some of that pretentiousness is now starting to get sandblasted off. Next up, we have an interesting piece of Andy Pants Gaming related hoopla, where he basically says that Halo is completely cooked, and then decides on how to quote-unquote fix Halo is to make it, and I quote here in terms of this screenshot, old school-based masculine campaign at launch, Chief is tough and cool again, and Cortana is hot, on how to fix Halo. Okay, but then he says on the multiplayer side, no running, no loadouts, ranked and uncranked, modern gameplay, maybe a separate BR mode. Basically, you don't want modern gameplay, you just want to go back and play Halo and then maybe mod in a BR mode for whatever reason. It's just... Andy Pants is one of those things where you look at some of the stuff that he's done. I've covered him like maybe once or twice on this channel, but it's baffling to me how, again, he falls under the same thing as Synthetic Man. Not as bad as Synthetic Man, in my opinion, as doesn't have as much of the extreme stuff, but overall, people like this who say they want old school based in masculine shit don't understand what those words necessarily mean or why those games were good in the first place. It's just very dumb to talk about all of this stuff. But next up here, we have an entire Porter Rock 77 segment, which he had a little bit of a crash out over this specific tweet here, where to go over the very basics here, you can read it in your own time, but to go over the very basics here, Porter Rock basically says that apparently, quote-unquote, people don't care about Wolverine, Ghost of Yotei, Intergalactic, and GTA 6, but he wants people to talk about Fragpunk, and yes, that does make sense that people don't necessarily care about all of those, because we haven't seen anything from Wolverine. Ghost of Yotei only got a specific trailer, same thing with Intergalactic, and GTA 6 only also got those types of trailers, and we haven't seen gameplay for any of those three, especially not Wolverine. Even with the leak, I haven't seen any gameplay of it, where PC fanboys in a nutshell want people to talk about a game that's already out and is actually free to play and is a good game. Fragpunk, which again is good, I will say, for a CSGO type game with a little bit of extra spice thrown in there. It's very good, very epic, and I would recommend that if you like CSGO, go right ahead and buy it. Or, well, not buy it, but go right ahead and play it. It's free to play. But he says that they didn't care about Astrobot, which, again, goes to show and kind of reflects in the sales. But also, Porter Rock says that apparently there's a chance that gamers care about these games that he listed off before because of Astrobot sales. No, that's not at all what he's saying. He's basically making the comparison that the games here are not being talked about, and people are talking about Fragpunk because, one, it's out, and two, these games have barely shown off anything marketing-wise, and continues to do that. And someone in the actual thing here says, you are talking about as if GTA 6 is a PlayStation game, Lamau. Pray that Rockstar didn't change their mind and release it on PC day one and Switch 2, or that Microsoft don't acquire Take-Two. Where Porter Rock comes in with a response of, I have better things to pray for. Oh, game... I'm assuming that's supposed to be, I know these games are day one on my PS5. Not concerned what other platforms may or may not them. Great grammar, but I love when people say, oh yeah, I'm not concerned or I don't care about X, Y, and Z, despite the fact that their previous stuff has shown that they do actually care about X, Y, and Z. In accordance to the fact that they even made the tweet in the first place. I just find that really hilarious. Where Ono Alex comes in with I got you, talking about how Starforge Systems custom gaming PCs. I think this is for, like, hey, something to do with price to performance and stuff. And Porter Rock, again, coming in here, solidly not caring, say, when you get in Wolverine and GTA 6. When are you getting Wolverine and GTA 6 is my fucking question, because you don't actually have a release date for either of those. And no one's releasing them, especially not with Wolverine, which has been in development for 3-4 years now. And what do you have to show for it? Oh, a CGI trailer of Wolverine pulling out his claws. Wonderful. Absolutely great. Can't wait to see that amazing gameplay in another 5 years. Brother. Next up here, we have Anki Walker talking about how PC gamers are the most patient, to be honest, where the first day after release of GTA 6, again, talking about how PC gamers and console gamers will be doing this, and again, you don't have any idea of what this is going to be released on what platform, and again, what the fuck? It's just Jesus Christ. And I also love how you can tell that this is supposedly kind of zoomed in footage of the same fucking screenshot. In that, because you can tell by a lot of the different things, and how, again, this part here gets cut off, which is them just in full screen, and then they just kind of shrunk the screen down to make it look even more supposedly more impressive. So yeah. But then we have James here coming in with a very interesting bit of Monster Hunter news. Now, this is again Monster Hunter Wilds, where they basically said, hey, turn down your graphics and update your graphics drivers to basically try to mitigate some of the performance issues. I think that while they work on it, I'm not sure if they've released like a patch or anything to make the performance better or whatever. I don't really know, nor do I just really find it the most interesting thing. I do find it interesting, though, that James comes in here saying, let me explain to you what Capcom really said here. Reduce your resolution and cap those frames at 30 FPS because your GPU isn't powerful as you claim. Or just buy a PS5 Pro. I mean, that's not what it said here. Like, at all. It's very stupid of you to assume that, and it's very dumb of you to talk about that, because if you look at some of these numbers here, talking about how if Monster Hunter is selling so much, imagine what GTA 6 will do. Mind you, the bulk of MA sales are on PC, with J-Dub basically saying most of them are on PlayStation, sir, 5 million. And the fact of if a PlayStation has 5 million, and you're quoting Zubby in terms of actual good gaming news, biased source as he is, from Matt Piscatella, I believe, who is a more neutral guy. I think he worked on the game. I'm not too certain. Talking about how across PC, PS5, and Xbox Series S and X and whatever, PC was the lead platform, sort of cycle retail tracking services. Again, this is talking about specifically Monster Hunter Wilds and tracking both digital sales. What I will also say is that in that same month of March 2nd, on my birthday, more or less, the person then talked about how Steam reached around 40 million concurrent users and 12.6 million users currently in game, and how the total thing became that way. And this was once attributed to Monster Hunter Wilds. If you remember specifically, I think I talked about this several times, and more specifically, I talked about how they reached 39 million, I think, at the end of last year, so an extra 1 million concurrent players at the same time in terms of this because of one game kind of shows how good the game is actually doing. And again, Blue coming in here, just really kind of saying PS5 dominating these sales, despite the fact that, again, bringing up that Matt Piscatelli sort of thing. With, again, Bingus Dickens kind of capping off this Monster Hunter segment, saying the following, which I think is very interesting, so listen on up. Once again, I was told by PlayStation fanboys that PC gamers don't buy games, therefore developers should just stop porting their games on PC. We know this is just cope for PlayStation games being on PC. This is them hoping and praying for that to change. And it won't. I can assure you for a guaranteeing fact that that won't happen, because again, the PlayStation entire ecosystem gets dwarfed by the entirety of PC, because again, there's an extra 20 million plus people on here that are just accounting for Steam alone, and I'm certain that these amounts of numbers and stuff, I remember seeing somewhere, but I'm not too certain, that this actual number is 1.8 million or 1 point whatever, not million, I mean billion with a B. That's entirely an uptick from the amount of people that have had there. But again, XQC, with a very, very fun opinion to talk about here, says the following about apparently PC gamers. Well, I don't think PC gamers, but he talked about gamers specifically, saying gamers will buy 5 early access games, half-baked 140 games, and sprinkle $300 worth of skins in a year. But when a AAA company goes all out and takes their time and make the most anticipated polished product we know they can make, suddenly $100 is too much. Stop talking. $100 is about 1/3 the price of a Steam Deck at the lowest value. $100 can buy you 2 AAA games from back in the day at $60, maybe a little bit more extra on the side. $100 used to be what certain game consoles were priced for back in the day. $100 is too much for a singular video game that is a standard edition, full stop. I do not care what people think about this. And this was brought up several times, where people were like, oh, I'm excited for GTA 6 being at $100. Don't be. Full on stop. Regardless of how you feel about $70 games, $100 games is way, way, way too much. If $70 games were too much and $60 games were even still too much, $100 games should be out of the fucking question. Because here's the thing. I use this price point and I use this sort of contingency plan of want and desires and stuff. If you have a product and you're trying to figure out which price to performance you're trying to do, oftentimes the middling price will get you the most amount of profit in return because you have the highest amount of people that want to without going into debt territory and losing money. Again, the basic principle of this is there's a 10, 20, and 50, 10, 15, and $20 tier. You have people that want to buy it, and out of 100 people, half want to do the $20, and the other half want to do the other ones, breaking it up depending on the stuff. And I did some math, and if you take about 80% of the people that want to do the $15 tier, which includes people who want the $20 tier, because people who want the $20 would see the 15 and be like, oh, that's actually better, so let's, better deal that you're getting. You get around $1,500, $1,700, $1,250 or something like that, which is more than the other two ends of the spectrum where you just get $1,000 from those same 100 people. It's one of those things where you have to do that cost-benefit analysis. So, yeah, super quick thing here, but yeah. Moving on to more interesting weird news here. It's talking about how the Steam Shop warning for Silent Hill F is the most descriptive that they've ever seen. Talking about things such as trigger warnings and things like that for psychological horror and whatnot. And again, it should be noted that these sort of things have been industry standard for quite some time. And basically, Savvy comes in here saying fiction doesn't need a warning like this, and it's pathetic that it's even a site of percentage of the population that who don't think this is a good idea. I do think that transparency is good, so transparency in horror games and giving a warning to the people who easily get scared. Yeah, that's a good idea. I love Silent Hill, but they're going to force them to do this. It pains me, and they're reworking it. I think the screenshot got cut off, but basically someone then retweets it and says, so every Silent Hill game does this. Thanks for showing that you are a tourist. And the person kind of tries to clap back with I appreciate your international intertential, I don't know how to pronounce that, stupidity, your display. No needs for a content warning for gender discrimination or time periods. Now begone, little bird, go spread your feces on someone else's car. I mean, again, well, yeah, there is such thing as a trigger warning in at least PlayStation, in at least the upcoming Silent Hill F. Updating and keeping these sorts of horrifying things that people might find uncomfortable, at least in terms of horror games, to me it just says, yeah, we're going to be transparent that we're not going to pull any punches for this game. I mean, that just makes sense to me. Why do you not see that? And saying oh yeah, every Silent Hill does this, does a warning for horrifying shit that you're about to see. Just like how you are warned before theaters and things where it's for horror movies saying, hey, don't go and watch this movie. You're going to get the shit scared out of you if you scare easily. Brother, it's standard practice across the entire industry. Just like it's standard practice for the readers to add context to a particular post. So I saw this about a while back. It got so bad that this person actually changed their handle and I didn't recognize them. But PlayStation Soldier here says, I have a PC, and PlayStation is just the best way to play games, where he lists off this as the screenshot or the picture of his PC. And a lot of people looked at this and went, that looks a little too clean. And apparently, according to this, readers added context. This post is misleading. The original post was posted on Instagram by an account called That on January 3rd, 2023, and does not show to appear the person poster's own PC, despite the implication that it's their post. And this also, I think, was backtraced even further to a marketing ploy or something like that, where a person literally just pulled this off of Google or something. And again, while it's an impressive build in terms of really cool liquid cooling shit, pretty nice, it's just not their PC. And oh no, he got fucking Twitter noted for it. My God. And I think we can kind of end it with Sir Bruvian's little tizzy that he got into with X-Vault Gaming. Now, I'm not going to go full on into details here. Other people have talked about it, but basically, Sir Bruvian got called a NONCE I'm not going to say the full word because apparently in slang terms it means that their person's like a PDF file or something very bad. And, well, he basically got called this, and then the person then apologized, mainly X-Fault Gaming, but it was a hollow apology where this person then got to, search up that actual word, and it turns out he used it quite frequently in terms of that and got caught in 4K, where he then tries to basically say that he lost money and to try to put food on the table to try to could do this. And this is another little thing that was been being talked about where it's like, oh yeah, because PlayStation, like, it's such a good value, you can't actually do that. Here's the thing. While, yeah, it is cheap to rent games and stuff, it's cheaper to rent games, and yes, the Xbox thing does make it very easy for people to get in. Here's the problem. Most people can't actually afford a lot of video games, if you think about it, because most of those people are actually living paycheck to paycheck. Speaking as someone who has a job, who can't get a job, despite the fact that I have a bachelor's degree in, like, actual college, and have now gotten another test in terms of certification, and have taken tests for the government in terms of IT certification, guess what? I still can't find a job that pays me more or a job that gives me more hours or anything. I can only get a convenience store job. That's despite everything that I have right now. Like, if that doesn't show you how bad it is to get a good job or quote-unquote get more money out of your job, like, that's not how this works. It's never how any of this works. Plus, again, when has saving money become a bad thing? Like, why is that bad? What's also really weird is that I've seen PlayStation fanboys specifically say, oh, we get the best deals in gaming. We get the best deals all the time at our stuff. And yet, that's not true. Because on Steam, there's Steam sales and stuff happening all the fucking time. And at much lower and more affordable prices. But no. PC gamers are poor. We're the ones that are always searching for deals. We're the ones that are always, like, trying to be more efficient with our money to try to get our hobby to be better. Or whatever. I don't know. This one is just one, again, that I will never understand why PlayStation fanboys say, oh, spending more money on your hobby makes you a better person. It does not. Spending money on your hobby should be a thing that you do only sometimes. Or spending money on your hobby should be a thing that you do with some of the excess money, and you put your money towards actual things that, you need, especially if you're supporting your family like Sir Bravian is. Anyway, overall, that's my rant on the actual month's goings-on about this time. Again, if you like what it is that I do, want to support me in any other way, shape, or form, other than like and subscribe, which is always enough. Links down to everything in the description below. I will be releasing more gameplay-focused stuff, as I've been working on a couple of those, as well as I'm going to start working on another Top 10 CEOs thing, which will probably be out by the end of the year, at least in terms of how I'm going to get this stuff produced. I am also going to be working on a Nib official video where I officially react to his actual videos on exclusivity being quote-unquote good for consumers. We'll break that down in another thing. But overall, oh yeah, and also my new music is releasing sometime this month, so be on the lookout for that, especially the speed paint, which I am actually very proud of. Overall, my name is GamePenguin21. If you like what it is that I do, want to support me in any other way, shape, or form, other than like and subscribe again, which is always enough. Links down to everything in the description below. But I gotta go and see you at a peace. Off.